You get sent back to September 10, 2001 to prevent the attack on September 11. You have no proof of what's going to happen. How will you prevent the attack? Call the World Trade Center Chief of Security John O'Neill. He was a retired FBI agent who had investigated the bombing of the USS Cole. I reckon he would take the call seriously and inform the FBI. Hopefully they will listen to him. Call John O'Neill and tell him that Project Bojinka is alive and happening tomorrow. Targets are in Washington and the World Trade Center. Do you happen to have his number? Clip Notes version of who John O'Neill was. TL. Dr. Retired FBI agent who helped get the 1993 WTC bomber. Had just started as head of World Trade Center security when 9/11 happened. Call in bomb threats to the specific airports with the flight numbers. Even back then they probably would have been taken seriously enough to delay the flights and cause enough investigation to find a hijacker or two. That's a good solution. I was thinking call in a bomb threat to the towers. But that wouldn't stop billions in property damage and loss of life from firefighters and other support staff. Try to hijack a plane the day before and purposefully fail and pretend to rat them out. That's actually really smart. You could demand a presidential pardon and then confess on your teammates. Call into every FBI office with the details. Give up on doing it anonymously. They'll believe it more. If they believe it at all. You'll be accused of being part of the plot and spend the rest of your life in jail. Start saving up and start buying Amazon stocks. Then Bitcoin and become a billionaire. Wait. What was the question? See. What scares me is that if you invested like 10k into Bitcoin it would butterfly effect into Bitcoin having no worth. As I'm British I'm already too late. My time machine is a time machine but not a space machine. The Earth has not arrived yet. And I die in the cold vacuum of space. Blowing up the towers the night before. Alternate belly. Calling the airlines and letting them know someone is planning to hijack the flights so that they can stop them. In the meantime. Just in case. Activating the fire alarms in both the towers so people will evacuate fast and far away. Blowing up the towers the night before. Imagine how confused Osama and the hijackers would be if you did 9/11 a day early. Every answer I have seen so far seems to be missing something important. Assuming that I could spend plenty of time studying before going back. I would start by memorizing all of the sports scores from the evening of 9/10. I would memorize the exact closing numbers from the various stock markets. I would then memorize the monologue from The Tonight Show as well as a few things that happened early in the morning on September 11th. If possible, I would get the fax number for every FBI office and every police department and every major newspaper. Upon returning to September 10, 2001 I would go to the law firm where I worked at the time and find myself and explain to myself why I was there. I would hire my law firm. At that point me and other me would type up my proof and fax a letter on law firm letterhead to all of those places. With an attached affidavit saying that extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof and you can see that I am telling the truth as you watch tonight's sports games and watch the live Tonight Show. I would give the names and flight numbers of course. From there I would strongly advise that they not take any action against the terrorists until all of them had boarded their planes and pulled away from the gates. I'd have the pilots announce there was a ground stop for a weather delay and as soon as that clears up we'll be on our way. Then they could scoop them all up at once and stop the attack but it would have been underway enough to cause people to freak the f*** out and increase security again. Kill the terrorists beforehand. Their hotel rooms the night before are probably public record. Boston to Jersey to DC is doable in a night. Badly attempt to hijack a plane and after being arrested act confused that it's not 9/11 and refuse to talk after that. Eventually while getting yelled at slip the information that I wasn't supposed to act alone. Slowly giving up information under questioning would hopefully make it credible enough to prevent the success of the real hijackers. Might want to demand a presidential pardon while doing that or else you would end up in Guantanamo Bay prison with actual terrorists. Guantanamo Bay didn't exist at the time. Theoretically. Stop 9/11 and we never start the war on terror. No war on terror. No Guantanamo Bay. Get naked and very greasy and run around the building screaming about the attacks an hour before. It does not stop it. But catching a greased up guy is super hard. And all the conspiracy theories will also feature a greased up naked guy who warned everyone and got away. Undefined. I just want to see how this gets spun into the conspiracy theory stories. Clearly the greasy midgets were reptile people kidnapping kids and scaring them for adrenochrome. Pull the fire alarm in both buildings, I guess. But you'd have to find a way to keep them outside once the people realize there's no fire. This is going to sound terrible, but hear me out. Hijack a plane first. Like at 5 a.m. Claim it's part of a larger plot and name flights, bomb threats, etc. Demand something ridiculous to buy time. Attempt to shut down the eastern seaboard before the actual party gets started. Land plane safely, albeit with a lot of scared people on board. Get arrested and name my accomplices. The actual conspirators. Probably go to jail forever, but I think one life for 3,000 is fair. I will make sure to win the lottery in as many places as possible, and because I have no proof of the attack, nobody is going to believe me. Maybe I can warn the people from the second tower and manage to evacuate them with the help of the right people. If they believe me. Other than that, I would invest my money in Apple shares mostly. Call the FBI from a payphone and tell them the flight numbers that would have the terrorists on them, and tell them the flight class that the hijackers had come from. Realistically, look at the date. Go, oh, I have 3 months to stop this from happening. And then freak out like I do every year when I realize that 9/11 happened in September, not November. I go to the towers and plant bombs and blow up the towers first. This is my man. I would take another plane and crash on the Twin Towers, the 9/10. No more 9/11. Mission failed successfully. Phoning in a bomb threat myself seems like the best strategy. Though it does bear the risk of the terrorists getting off scot-free if they just call off the attack and decide to try again at a later date. And I might get caught and fined for prank calling. Kill Obama. Cause he did it? Find the pilot in the terminal. Now rub onion slices under their eyes. Wait for them to turn red. Then claim they cannot fly a plane because they are intoxicated. I won't do anything because no one will believe me. And after the attack I would get arrested because I knew about it. Activate airplane mode. Contact the pilots. Tell them that under no circumstances should they allow entry to the cockpit. Nobody. No matter what. If anyone gets into the cockpit, everyone aboard and thousands on the ground will die. It's going to suck, but it is the right thing to do. This might sound a little wrong, but pay a Muslim man to go to each floor and say Allah Akbar to get everyone to leave undefined. I actually laughed at this. The worst thing is the fact that it would probably work. Just call in anonymous hints with specific information about the flights. You get a payphone or a cheap cell with minutes. Information and details seem too specific to be ignored. Good chance it's prevented. They ask how you know. You hang up. You could even make this call to both airports with 2 phones. Pull the fire alarm. By the time people work out it's a false alarm, the planes will have hit. I doubt you could save the planes, but it stops the war having anywhere near the legitimacy it did. Hundreds of thousands of lives saved. Pull the fire alarm in the Twin Towers at like 7 or 8 on September 11th. I wouldn't prevent the attack. 9/11 led to a lot of good things like Osama bin Laden's death and increased security at the airport. Take out these things and there's no telling the amount of good people who would have died. Call Osama and be like, bro, don't do it. I've seen way too many time travel movies to know that if I do that, things will invariably be much worse. And look at how badly that event beeped us. Bush wins a very conspicuous election. Bush and his party use the attack to basically end personal liberty in the US and supersede the Constitution with the Patriot Act. They go to 2 absurd wars that still rage today. Wars that make their donors rich. They ignore the mortgage crisis. Their SEC does jack speep. The economy crashes. The stock market gets bailed out, but that's basically the end of the middle class. Underemployment and unemployment spur the gig economy, which is a race to a working class and worse. Anti-Muslim rhetoric fuels the hate on the right, which fuels an online circle jerk of hate that results in racism becoming kind of okay. Donald Trump makes birther claims about Obama and secures a base of racists that he ultimately rides into the White House, where he wildly mismanages a pandemic, refusing stimulus and aid to those unemployed by the pandemic, hoping that they will blame their local officials and not him and he will get re-elected. He doesn't. So he foments a coup using conspiracy theories and racism to achieve it. I'm not even sure all that isn't the result of a time traveler beeping things up. So here's my plan. Before going back, I figure out who traveled back in time and caused this mess, and I find them and stop them. Call the FAA or flight deck of the nearest big city and say there will be multiple hijackers on multiple flights in these areas. Find them. If I were to get sent back to September 10th, 01, I would have been too young to remember anything, and therefore everything would happen the same. I wouldn't. I'd just remember to invest in some companies and Bitcoin. I already know how this timeline played out, and I couldn't live with myself if stopping it had a butterfly effect and things were worse. Plus I'm selfish. And with no proof you'd be the one suspect, so your life is ruined. They might not stop it anyway. And everyone you know hates you, thinking you had something to do with it. Just not put fuel in the engine. IDK. I was literally born September 10th, 2001. I guess chillin' in the hospital. Kill myself so that the timeline is messed up and 9/11 never happens. If I were the boss, I would say that you had a day off and could exit work. Undefined. I'd call in a bomb threat. Tell them that Arab terrorists were planning to bomb the place. I'd tell them that I'm Arab too. Though not with the terrorists. And hopefully, that would also stop a bit of racism towards Arabs. I'm Arab too. Anyway. Though I was born and raised in America. And the racism can be pretty disgusting. Though. As far as I remember, I've never dealt with anything too extreme before. Wait outside the airport. Murder the terrorists before they get on the plane. Then get arrested immediately. Once police investigate, hopefully the feds get involved and figure out what the terrorists were planning. Then maybe I get pardoned. If not, I sit in jail forever and sacrifice myself. This is the way. Go into the Empire State Building. And turn on every fire alarm I can find. The whole place will hopefully be evacuated before the plane hits. Saving lots of lives. Don't you mean the WTC buildings? Yes, the Big Ben. The Eiffel Tower. Honestly, I wouldn't. Who knows what would get beeped up by stopping that? I would call and email the FBI, CIA, NSA, White House, the Pentagon, both houses of Congress, state and local law enforcement, security at the departure airports, and major newspapers and television networks. The networks in particular are key because that would put pressure on the FBI and other agencies to actually look into the threats by asking lots of questions. Mentioning the flights and departure airports, Osama bin Laden's crew, and their targets, which were the WTC, the White House, and Pentagon, are also key. Mention the name Mohammed Atta as the ringleader. You would also have to mention that you overheard the terrorists talking about their plans while conducting flight training in Florida as well. This is about the best you could do to prevent the 9/11 attacks. That's a tough one. But I think let history run its course. Who knows what changing the past would do to the future? Maybe it'll make it better or unleash the apocalypse. Who knows? Knowing that the butterfly effect won't screw things up in the future, then heck yeah. I will do crazy speak to stop it.